So here are the answers to the mental math. $18, $5, 18, 3/8, 23, and 40. We are going to talk about angle measurements of a triangle and angle pairs. So basically, we're going to be doing some geometry today, which is kind of a fun change of scenery. All right, for this exercise, what you need to do is get some paper and cut out two triangles, different sizes, okay? Mine look very similar. They look like similar triangles, and they might be. It's just how it happened. And you're going to cut them out, and you're also going to find the altitude. Same way we did a few lessons ago. Make a right angle and find the altitude. So from the vertex up here, a right angle to the base, perpendicular line straight up to the vertex. Same with my other one. And we're going to do that, okay? Then we're going to fold everybody down and have it touch where the altitude is. So right here. Okay, and we're going to end up with a rectangle basically. And we're going to look and examine why we would do this and what does it tell us about the angle measurements of a triangle. Okay, so see how we fold everyone over to the base of the altitude. Okay, so there's one of mine lined up with a rectangle, and every angle now lines up perfectly, and they turn into a straight angle, don't they? In fact, I'm going to label those angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. And they line up and they add up, if you can see there, to a straight angle. Okay? Remember, a straight angle is 180 degrees. Okay? So I'm going to open mine back up again. This was angle 1, this was angle 2, just the other side of it, and angle 3. Okay? I'm going to do that with my other one, and then we'll discuss what that means. And the reason we do two of them is just to show you that this phenomenon will happen every time you try this activity, because every triangle has the same property. If I can get this to fold where I want it to fold. Alright, so my other one. All three vertices of my triangle make a straight angle. So a straight angle happens to be 180 degrees. So if we add up this angle plus this angle plus this angle, they add up every time to a straight angle, which adds up to 180 degrees. Okay, so that is why we say the sum of the measures of a triangle, of the interior angles of a triangle, add up to 180. So angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 equal 180. All right. So let's take example 1, and we're supposed to figure out the measure of this angle here. All right. We are given this is 30. We're actually given one other angle. This little box tells us that we know that this is 90 degrees. So we have 90 degrees, 30 degrees, and a question mark. They add up to 180. So basically we have 90 plus 30 plus, let's call it X, or we'll call it angle A, equals 180 degrees. So can we figure out what angle A is? Yes. 90 plus 30 is 120 degrees plus angle A equals 180. So this plus this equals 180. So if we did 180 minus 120, we get angle A equals 60 degrees. So we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now we're going to talk about some other vocabulary words. Okay, we've got this set up here. We've got two lines intersecting. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 angles, and they all have relationships. Angle 1 and 2 are right next door to each other. So we call those adjacent angles. They are, sorry, there it is. They are next door to each other. They share a ray, basically, okay, between them. So when you share a ray or share a common side, they are adjacent angles. Now there's another thing I want to write with that. Together they land on a straight line. So together they make a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. And when two angles add up to 180, they are called supplementary. So let's write supplementary right below there. They're adjacent and supplementary angles, meaning they add up to 180 degrees. All right, angle 3 and 4. Look at that. They are also adjacent angles, and they are supplementary. Now let's look at angle 1 and 3. They do not share a common side. They share a vertice, and they actually have this side goes straight into angle 1's other side and vice versa. So what we call those are vertical angles, when they basically point at each other. Those are vertical angles. And I'm going to look at this. If measure of angle 1 is 60 degrees, what is angle 4? If this is 60 and this, then what would angle 4 be? Well, 1 and 4 are adjacent. They add up to 180. So if this is 60, 60 plus what is 180? That's right, it's 120 degrees would be angle 4. And let's look at some other questions here, if I can. Sorry. All right, here's this. I'm going to have the picture out because the question is, if measure of angle 3 is 70 degrees, let's say 3 is 70 degrees, and what is measure of angle 1? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. They're vertical angles, and vertical angles, you'll find out in geometry, are actually congruent, or the same measure. So I know by being in geometry that angle 1 is also 70, but we can also figure out how to get there. If angle 3 is 70, angle 2, these two together make 180. So this should be 110. This should be 110 degrees. And then if these two are supplementary, then this should be 70 degrees. And this should be 110 degrees. So let's look up here. Let's add it in. Measure of angle 1 was 70 degrees. Measure of angle 2, we said, was 110 degrees. Now, two angles whose measure add up to 90 degrees are called, now 180 was supplementary, 90 is complementary. Now, I've heard people remember it this way, that C comes before S in the alphabet. So complementary add up to 90 degrees and supplementary add up to 180. So that's one way to remember the difference between complementary and supplementary. Complementary is less, comes before the alphabet. Supplementary is later and add up to a bigger number. Maybe that'll work for you, maybe not. Example 2, find the measures of angle X, Y, and Z. These out here, these guys. So let's see how to do that. What are we given? We know this is 50. We know this is 90. So can we figure out what angle X is? So here's a nice way to show it. Angle X plus 50 degrees plus 90 degrees equals 180. Remember, a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So angle X plus 140 equals 180. So that shows us that angle X then must be 40 degrees. So I like to write it in there on my pictures, and that's good to label as you go, because then you feel like you've made some progress when you can see it in your picture. So first thing is angle X equals 40. Angle Y is supplementary, right? They're on a straight angle together. So angle Y, 40 plus this equals 180. So angle Y must be 140 degrees. And then angle X and Z are vertical angles, so angle Z should, here I'm going to write it, angle Z should also be 40 degrees, but we can check because these two are also supplementary because they land on a straight line. So 140 plus 40 is 180. So angle Z is also 40 degrees. So those are fun. I enjoy this kind of geometry. All right, figure ABCD is a parallelogram, which means both sides are parallel. Segment BD divides the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. So these triangles are the exact same size. Okay. Angle CBD, where are we? CBD equals 40 degrees. What other angle measures 40 degrees in this picture? If this is 40 and these triangles are congruent, that is the tricky thing. If we take and unpack and flip this, what we really have here is, if I pull these apart, we have, let's call that C, B, D, right? And this is 40 degrees, and this was 60 degrees. And then they said this triangle is also congruent, but we'd have to, if they're congruent, we have to figure out what angle is where. Well, C and A are congruent. So A is there if we figure this out, and D is here. This is difficult, really, to try and figure out what angles correspond to what angles. So actually this angle and this angle are the same. So what we kind of had to do is roll this over, per se, and flip it. Okay, so if these are how the triangles match up, then we know angle D is 40 degrees right here. Angle B and D are the same, and A and C are the same. So this is also 60. Okay, so 40 plus 60 is 100. So then that means our other angles need to be 80 degrees. Now the question though was, what other angle measures 40 degrees? The other angle that measured 40 degrees was ADB. ADB, or up here it was ADB. Okay, so these are the same triangle flipped and rotated. Okay, they just don't look like it because it's not to scale. Now the last question was, angle C in the first triangle right here corresponds to what angle over here in this triangle? Corresponding means where's the one in the same position. So what angle here, what angle in this triangle is in the same position as this guy? Well, it was angle A. Okay, so that might have been tricky for you. Let's move on and do the practice. Actually do it on your own and check your work. Turn it back on if you get stuck. Okay, and you begin. The sides of a regular triangle are equal in length. So here's a regular triangle. And the angles are all the same. So these guys are all the same. What is the measure of each angle of a regular triangle? We also call it an equal angular. So if we add them all up, x plus x plus x equals 180. So basically 180 divided by 3 for it to have angles that are all the same. And it's 60 degrees are the measures of every angle in a regular triangle. Okay, let's look at these pictures now. Refer to this rectangle. And we have what is the measure of ACB? So we have ACB. So this is what we're looking for. And why? Well, this is a rectangle. So I know that this whole angle is 90 degrees. So if this is 70, 70 plus angle ACB must equal 90 degrees. They are complementary. So angle ACB equals 20 degrees. And the next one, what is the measure of CAB? So now we're looking at this angle. Okay, well if this is 90 degrees and this is 20 degrees, 20 plus 90 plus that equals 180. So 20 plus 90 is 110 plus CAB equals 180. So CAB must equal 70 degrees. All right, our angles ACD and CAB vertical. Are these vertical angles? Why or why not? Well, they are not, because their angles, well, even though their angles are equal, they are not angles formed by intersecting lines. So we'd say no, they are not. They just happen to be equal. They are not vertical. Okay. Now we're going to look at this one here just to remind you X and Z are vertical. So now we get to basically solve this. We're going to, by the end, we're going to have angle X equals, angle Y equals, angle Z equals, and that will be our answer box. Okay. So find the measures. Well, let's deal with X first. 40 plus 80 is 120. 120 plus something equals 180. So this better be 60, right? So angle X equals 60. Now X and Z are vertical angles, so I actually know that must be 60 as well. So now we just have to figure out what Y is. Well, we could look at this and say, all right, that's a straight angle. So X plus Y have to equal 180. They are supplementary. That means Y must be 120. And there you go. Fun stuff. I think maybe the hardest part was just the corresponding angles. So if you want, look in the book and they do a little bit better job explaining how you pull apart that parallelogram. And now you may begin on your work.